Hello, my name is Alexis, and I'm 33 years old. I've recently emerged from a deeply challenging experience, and I'm here to share my journey with you. This tale begins with my former husband, Russell, and his mother, Lori. Russell and I crossed paths in college, and our connection was instant, leading to a relationship that blossomed swiftly. After about 5.5 years, we tied the knot. Our bond was strong, yet there was a shadow cast by one person, my mother-in-law, Lori. From the moment Russell introduced me, Lori made her disdain for me unmistakably clear. Her criticisms and insults were a constant pain, made worse by my insecurities about my appearance. However, I clung to the belief that Russell's love for me was based on who I was at heart, which brought me some comfort. 3 years into our marriage, I decided to leave my job and embark on an entrepreneurial venture with my best friend. It was a bold move, but Russell was supportive. Our business began modestly, but grew steadily, eventually becoming highly profitable and affording us a comfortable life. Despite this success, Lori's attitude toward me remained unchanged, dismissing my accomplishments and even accusing me of undermining her son. Russell's silence during her tirades added strain to our relationship, leading to frequent arguments. I felt he never defended me, which only widened the gap between us. The situation escalated when I discovered Lori's attempts to match Russell with other women, a fact I stumbled upon through a text on Russell's phone. My heart sank as I read their exchanges, filled with derogatory comments about me. Initially, Russell resisted his mother's matchmaking efforts, but over time, he began to show interest in the women she recommended. This revelation left me deeply hurt and questioning the foundation of our relationship. Feeling deeply troubled, I resolved to confront Russell about what I had discovered, planning to do so after work the following day. However, that day took an unexpected turn. One moment, I was on my way to work, and the next, I found myself waking up in a hospital bed, surrounded by the beeping of machines and the attentive gazes of nurses. My head was pounding, and I felt an overwhelming thirst. Despite my weakness, I managed to ask for water. After quenching my thirst, I tried to rest again, hoping sleep would ease the headache. Attempting to shift my legs for comfort, I realized with shock that they wouldn't move. At first, confusion took over, quickly followed by panic. I urgently called for a nurse, explaining my inability to feel my legs. The nurse promptly alerted the doctor, who conducted tests to assess my sensation. It was during this tense moment that Russell entered the room, his concern palpable as he tried to understand the situation. After further tests, the doctor delivered the devastating news. I was paralyzed. Russell left the room, likely overwhelmed with worry and sadness. Alone, I wrestled with this life-altering reality. The doctor, sensing my turmoil, advised rest and reassured me, despite my protests that sleep was impossible with my mind in turmoil. He explained that the medication would help me rest, and that, despite the severity of my spinal injury, there was still a chance for recovery. This glimmer of hope was tempered by the reality that any progress would be slow and require intensive effort. The news was a lot to process, but it introduced a faint hope amid the overwhelming despair. Understanding the challenge ahead, I was determined to overcome my paralysis. The doctor emphasized the importance of nutrition and rest for my overall recovery, including the healing of other injuries sustained in the accident. This conversation gave me a sliver of hope. The prospect that my condition wasn't permanent fueled my resolve to fight for my recovery. Shortly after the doctor's departure, the nurses briefed me on the accident's details. I had been broadsided at an intersection, causing my vehicle to crash and leading to severe injuries, including spinal cord damage, a broken collarbone, and facial bruises. Learning I had been in a coma for 2 weeks was shocking. The revelation that the accident was caused by a driver under the influence who had been apprehended brought mixed feelings. While anger and frustration were my initial reactions, the relief that justice was being served provided some comfort. After eating and taking the medication, which was indeed potent as the doctor had warned, I quickly fell into a deep sleep. Awakening the next day, the room was quiet, save for the steady hum of medical equipment. It was then I noticed my mom, catching a moment of rest in a chair. My attempt to get her attention startled her awake. As she came to my side, the mix of concern, relief, and love on her face was overwhelming. Our reunion was emotional, with tears and tender gestures that spoke volumes of the fear and relief we both felt. My mother's presence was a profound comfort, reminding me of the support system I had in my fight to recover. Feeling a mix of guilt and gratitude, I was relieved to still be here, fighting through the aftermath of my ordeal. Grasping my mom's hand, I flipped the script and checked on her well-being, which elicited a tender smile and the kind of response only a mom could give, prioritizing my pain over hers. She expressed relief that the medication was sparing me from the worst of the pain, yet her fear for my safety and future was palpable in her voice. Despite her efforts to stay strong, her concern revealed a vulnerability that struck a chord with me. I reassured her of my caution, trying to ease her worry, but her reflections on the unfairness of my situation highlighted the randomness of life's challenges. Our conversation shifted to recovery, and despite the uncertainty, we held on to hope. My mom's unwavering support, regardless of the recovery outcome, was a beacon of strength. However, the mention of Russell brought a shadow over our moment of connection. His absence since the accident, especially after learning about my paralysis, was a painful void. My mom, equally puzzled and concerned, vowed to reach out to him, her protective instincts kicking in. As sleep began to claim me again, I was enveloped by a sense of loss and betrayal over Russell's absence. The brief interaction before the diagnosis, followed by his sudden disappearance, left a lingering question of his commitment and support when I needed him the most. Upon waking, the scene that greeted me was one of my mother's in a heated phone conversation, her words sharp and filled with demand. My head was pounding as the effects of my medication had faded, leaving me to confront the pain in full force. I quickly summoned a nurse who administered the necessary medication to alleviate my discomfort. Once the pain subsided, curiosity got the better of me, and I inquired about the recipient of my mother's fiery words. My mom, clearly distressed, initially brushed off my concern, but I could sense the depth of her unease. With a bit more coaxing, she revealed she'd been arguing with Russell, who had been spending time away with friends. The realization that he had scarcely visited while I was comatose added a layer of hurt beyond the physical injuries I was enduring. My mother had lost her patience with him for his dismissive attitude towards my accident, chastising him for treating my near-death experience with such indifference. She had laid down an ultimatum for him to visit within the hour, a move I found both embarrassing and necessary. Russell did eventually show up, accompanied by Lori, which only intensified my discomfort. The absence of his support was already a heavy burden, and Lori's presence was the last thing I desired. My mother, sensing the tension, excused herself to leave us room to talk. Confronted with Russell's neglect, I questioned his absence, only to be met with cold indifference from Lori, who insinuated that my condition rendered me useless to Russell. She openly admitted that Russell had considered staying by my side until she convinced him otherwise, citing our pre-existing relationship struggles and my inability to contribute financially due to my paralysis as justifications for their callous perspective. This revelation was a harsh blow, underscoring the fragility of our bond and the stark reality of my new circumstances. During our conversation, Russell made it painfully clear that my paralysis had altered his willingness to uphold our vows of mutual support through sickness and health. His blunt admission, influenced by Lori's harsh perspective, left me reeling. Lori did not hesitate to express her belief that Russell deserved better, attributing my worth solely to my now threatened business success. Their readiness to abandon me in my time of need, with Russell announcing his intention to serve a divorce papers and Lori gleefully scheduling him a date immediately afterward, was a stark betrayal. As they departed, leaving me to grapple with the crushing reality of their abandonment, my mom returned. Her presence was a small comfort as I relayed the devastating exchange. She was furious, her anger a testament to her love for me, even though she couldn't confront them in time. She stayed by my side, a pillar of strength as I cried until sleep mercifully took me. The arrival of the divorce papers the next day felt like a formality. Signing them, I was struck by the sight of Lori's triumph and Russell's apparent relief, a painful reminder of the cruelty of being left by someone I thought loved me, especially at such a vulnerable moment. The weeks that followed were dark, marked by a deep depression. It felt as if a vital part of me had been stripped away, leaving my world devoid of color. Yet through this time, my mom was my silent stronghold, offering comfort in the form of favorite meals and fresh flowers, her actions a quiet testament to her unwavering support. Her presence helped me face each day, even as I began to navigate the world anew, starting with the healing of my physical injuries and bracing for the challenges ahead. After my diagnosis and the subsequent abandonment by Russell, I was cleared to begin physical therapy and start a regimen of medications aimed at managing my paralysis. A skilled physical therapist was recommended, and my sessions were scheduled to start in a week. Truthfully, my initial reaction was one of defeat. I had no desire to do anything but remain in bed, succumbing to my sorrow. This led me to miss my first couple of therapy appointments, a clear sign of my despair. However, my mom reached her limit with my despondency. She confronted me, expressing her frustration with my continued moping. Despite my protests that I felt utterly defeated, she insisted that I had the power to change my circumstances, at least to some degree. She challenged my passivity, arguing that even a small step forward was better than remaining stagnant. Her suggestion that I could reclaim some control over my life, perhaps even finding a way to prove Russell and Lori wrong, struck a chord. She pointed out that while my physical abilities were compromised, my intellect and spirit remained intact, urging me to leverage them. Taking her advice to heart, I hesitantly agreed to start working from home, partly to appease her and partly to escape her persistent encouragement. Surprisingly, this decision marked a turning point. I resumed my role in my business, largely thanks to my business partner and best friend who had kept things afloat during my absence. Her visits, though infrequent due to the demands of our business, were a reminder of the life that awaited me outside my self-imposed isolation. This shift towards action, however small, was the first step in a long journey of recovery and self-reassertion. Guided by my mother's unwavering support and the realization that surrendering to despair would not undo the hurt, but could deepen it. After returning to work and lightening the burden on my business partner, our team warmly welcomed me back, expressing concern but also relief at my involvement again. I reassured them of my well-being and found myself quickly re-immersed in the rhythm of work, much to my mom's delight. This positive shift was mirrored in my commitment to physical therapy, which I attended 4 times a week. Despite the initial embarrassment and difficulty, I was determined to persevere. The catalyst for a renewed sense of purpose came unexpectedly from a Facebook post by Russell announcing his remarriage. The post and its thinly veiled insult directed at our past ignited a fierce resolve within me to not only recover, but also excel beyond my previous achievements. This moment of anger transformed into a powerful motivator, fueling my dedication over the next 5 years. The journey was challenging, with the first 3 years focused on regaining my ability to walk, a milestone I achieved with the aid of a cane. The following 5 years were devoted to my business, driving it to significant success and recognition, a testament to my hard work and determination. However, satisfaction eluded me until an unexpected opportunity for retribution presented itself. Russell's company was floundering. In a twist of fate, my company was in a position to offer a merger, one that would leave us in a dominant position. We proceeded with the merger under terms that were favorable to us, granting us significant control. The moment I walked into Russell's company for the first meeting post-merger, cane in hand but standing tall, the look of shock on Russell's face was a silent victory. The years of struggle, the pain of betrayal, and the hard work had led to this moment, marking not just a personal triumph, but also the beginning of a new chapter in my professional life, one where the past grievances could finally be put to rest. Striding confidently into the room, heels clicking with each step, I made my entrance as the embodiment of my recovery, a stark contrast to the image Russell last held of me. Announcing my role as the new CEO, I outlined the upcoming organizational changes, hinting at a leaner team structure. While the implications were broad, the message was clear, especially to Russell, who was the prime candidate for dismissal. Russell, unable to contain his shock and confusion, confronted me after the meeting. His disbelief at my recovery, framed by his accusation of deceit, was met with my clarification that his absence had left him uninformed of my potential for recovery, a potential that had fully materialized. His suggestion of revenge as my motive was dismissed with the same cold indifference he had shown me, making it clear that my ambitions and efforts were far above any desire for petty retribution. His plea for professionalism while revealing a personal development about expecting a child was met with a realization. This moment wasn't about reviving old grievances. It was about moving forward, asserting my strength and independence in the face of adversity, and demonstrating that my success and recovery were not anchored to the past, but were stepping stones to a future I was building on my terms. As Russell pleaded for his job, invoking a need for stability in light of his impending parenthood, he echoed the very words he once used to diminish our relationship. However, the irony of his appeal did not sway my decision. I informed him that his termination letter was already prepared, marking the end of his tenure. His reaction, a mix of shock and indignation, mirrored the abandonment I felt in my time of need. As I left him to absorb the consequences of his actions, I felt a surge of empowerment, a stark contrast to the vulnerability I once felt. Lori's attempts to vilify me through calls and messages later that day only reinforced the righteousness of my actions. Her insults were met with a reminder of her role in the unraveling of my marriage and well-being. This exchange, while bitter, underscored the transformation I had undergone, from a position of helplessness to one of strength and resolve. The sweetness of this victory was not just in the retribution, but in the affirmation of my resilience. The support and encouragement I received in my lowest moments were instrumental in this journey. This experience taught me a valuable lesson. From the depths of despair, the only direction left is upward. With each step forward, I moved away from the shadows of my past, embarking on a path defined by my strength, determination, and newfound independence.